So welcome. It's the informational session on the Residential Facade Improvement Grant Program. Obviously, you just heard record. We are going to record this and then put that recording online in case anyone can't be here today. But very much thank everyone for coming. Like I said a moment ago, I am going to put the program guideline behind me, and I am actually going to go ahead and share that screen on the Zoom so you guys can also see that. And I'll try to periodically check and make sure I don't miss any of the participants if somebody tries to come in. I'm John Bannon. I'm the Community Development Coordinator for the City of Macomb. City's funding this program. We're lucky enough to be able to do so with ARPA money. This is Darrin Taflinger,
Regional Council,
who is administering the program. So you will actually apply through the Western Illinois Regional Council at their building, but we're certainly tag teaming this. So both happy to answer any questions.
Hey, John, can I just chime in for a second? John's going to be a little humble here. This was a project that John brought to the administration with an idea of, getting some money out into the community from the federal stimulus plan. That's what he said the ARPA funds were about. That's American Rescue Plan Act. And so we were very happy when John brought this forward to council for approval. It's a great idea. It's, I think, a fair amount of money, and we have partnered with some folks that we do really good work with already, and that's the Western Illinois Regional Council. Roger Cady is the new executive director of the Regional Council. Mr. Taflinger is a employee there. We can't be happier that we're partnering with them, getting this program out into the community. So, John, don't be so humble. What we're really excited about, and this may seem, I would just ask you, yes, we're the government, we're here to help. That's a little bit here, but we really want this to be something you all benefit from, the community benefits from. It really has the, I think, the opportunity to really charge the community up and get some really good things going. And I'm glad to see that you're here. Glad to see the folks on Zoom with us. And we're excited. So I hope you are too. John, don't make it too boring and get them really charged up. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
All right. So it's telling the zoning guy not to make it boring. So I apologize in advance. But I think what the mayor is saying, is absolutely right. This is exciting. We don't get to give 90% match programs very often. Feel free to grab a packet and then a seat. Welcome. 90% matching program up to $10,000 to do work in residential properties that are owner occupied that meet our income eligibility, and at least a portion has to be visible from the public right of way. Doesn't mean the whole thing. So if you wanted to do work on your windows, yeah, you have to do the windows that face the street. You can do all the windows. If you're going to do your siding, you can do siding on the whole house. You can't just patch the siding on the rear of the house, but you can certainly reside or repaint the whole house. And it's 90%. I am not eligible, but if I were, I would certainly take advantage. In terms of who is eligible, we have income guidelines that we'll go through. For a family of 4, our upper income level is $78,300. These are from the HUD income limits. I won't go into that because the mayor told me not to be boring. But if you own your own home and live in it, and you make under those dollar amounts, and you have something that needs work, if you have a beautiful home that's just been painted and the windows are brand new, that's not eligible, right? But if it needs to be painted, if the windows are 40 years old, if the roof is 25, 30 years old, it needs to be done. Any of these things are totally eligible. The porch needs to be redone. Darren's going to kind of coordinate that entry point for us. But we want to help people who need the help, and very sympathetic with the price of building materials and everything else. And today you want to do something to your house. You need that, can't quite bridge that gap. This is how we bridge that gap. You will need to come up with the money on the front end, but again, it's 90%. In terms of eligible expenses, windows, doors, painting, siding, roofing, porches, decks, the improvements do need to be permanent and enhance the property from the sidewalk or street. You want a nice yard ornament that's not permanent. That's not something we can fund. I love landscaping. We're not going to fund that. So they do need to be on the structure. They do need to be permanent. And I'm certainly sympathetic. People need wiring. They need plumbing. They need all those things on the inside of the house. But this program is about things that are visible from the neighborhood, from the public right of way. So those things are not eligible. All right. It's got to be a portion visible from the street, from the public right of way. We have other programs eventually, like we've talked about, that things would be eligible for, but this is a facade one. So it does need to be visible from the public right of way. Somebody just entered, so I will make sure I admit them.
I have a question. Are
Sure.
gutters considered?
Yes, but it's the same logic, at least a portion of it needs to be visible from the public right of way. So do the gutters around the whole house, but yeah, and that's going to improve the look.
I have a question. The homeowner has to pay 100% of it initially, right?
This is going to be a reimbursement program. It's just for us, it's logistically, necessary for us to run it. So you are going to have to come up with the money on the front end. We've discussed, and the mayor's on board and WRC's on board. We're happy to provide a letter of guarantee upon successful awards. So, the city of Macomb awards, I don't know, John Bannon, $8,000 to replace the windows, on the front, rear, and sides of the home. And you can take that, and I don't know if, a local contractor or a local business owner would be willing to work with you on not having all of it down in cash, with the knowledge that the city is going to pay that 90% upon the successful completion of the project. We also are both allowing and encouraging people who are doing their own projects to do them. You don't need to hire a contractor. So, if you can paint your own home, and that's $1,000, you need to come up with $100 in advance, $100 and $1,000 in advance. So that $1,000 might be a lower bar than coming up with $10,000, for example. So there's no minimum amount here. We want people to do projects that will improve their home. So if it's a smaller project, it may just be a little easier to swing. And again,
Could we stop there for a second? So maybe this letter that Pete described. So most contractors, at least that we're familiar with, would say, okay, here's an agreement. You pay us X amount up front. The rest is due within 30 days after completion of the project. I think what we're hoping is that if you can come up with the 10% down, the match essentially up front, then we would also extend this letter so that the contractor know that all you need to do is come to us. Here's my completed project. Here are the receipts. And I think we could probably work within that window of when those receipts are due and payable to the contractor. Does that sound fair?
Yeah. So we want to work with them, and obviously every contractor is probably not going to want to do that, but I think, they all know us. WRC and the city are not going anywhere. They know we're good for the money. It's just going to be a time sequence where, that project may take a matter of months to come to fruition, and that'll be their time frame to get reimbursed.
All the contractors have to be licensed, I take it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The city paints a little different. We don't permit that, but any other job needs to be properly permitted. The contractor needs to be registered. And then we're going to go through the normal city building inspection procedure. So our verification is that our city building inspector does go out and approve the work, which is going to protect you as the homeowner and us as the funder, to make sure that what is done is actually something that's going to help the community, help the homeowner, and help the neighborhood.
The local contractors would know all, but they have to know all this.
Oh yeah, we have, yeah. And simply because somebody is not local doesn't mean that they can't register. We register, it's a form, it's $25, and critically, it's their liability insurance. So, we know they're responsible, they are licensed and insured. And if there is some issue, the insurance will kick in and the homeowner is not liable.
So if you're doing the work yourself, you have to
No,
get a new.
homeowners are allowed to you're allowed to do pretty much anything in your home yourself.
Okay.
We're still going to ask you to go through our normal process, pull a permit, and then our inspector is going to inspect it, but you can certainly do that. So if it's a porch and you wanted to rebuild your own porch, you can certainly do that. We're going to ask you to pull the permit. We're going to have you speak with the building inspector and make sure what you build is code compliant. It's something you're going to be happy with and it's going to last for years and years, as well as just adhere to all those building code things like having the right kind of balusters and the railing and, you know, being a safe height. So
Well, I take it then that we could come to City Hall and get lists of registered contractors.
we have lists of registered contractors. We're not really going to tell you contractor A or B, but we're certainly happy to give you that big list of these are all the registered contractors. And like I said, if you really, you know, if somebody's working in Bushnell and they're not registered here yet, we're certainly happy to register them, you know, at that point. I just want to say quickly, is there an advantage to applying soon? We have $330,000 to disperse, which sounds like a lot. We are going to have a second round if we have money left over, but I would advise anyone interested to apply now before August 31st. So your application is in this first round. And then only if we have funds that are left over will we have that second round. So please apply by the end of August. That would be my ask and recommendation. In terms of eligibility, there's HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They have a income limits. We're going with their 100% income limits. Essentially, the median income for the community is our upper limit. So if you're a family of 4 and your total household income, so, you know, everybody in the household making money is under 78,000, you're eligible. If it's a single person, it's $54,000, $54,900. And our second round, we're going to go with a little higher to make sure we can disperse all our money. If you have questions about that, we'll get to that. But essentially, so you know those income limits, you know, we're trying to make it work for people that, you know, they do have a job and it's just hard, or a pension, and it's just hard because we're on fixed limits. We're also not trying to fund people who don't need it, right? We don't want to give money to people who could pay for this without even noticing the money that's in their wallet. So 78,000 for a family of 4 is the upper limit. And then I want to talk a little, we just talked about eligible improvements. We can talk more about them. We will have a scoring criteria, and it will be a competitive process if we don't have enough money. So that's why I also recommend applying in the first round before the end of August. We will grade the criteria if we don't have enough funding, and we may very well have enough funding to fund every application in the first round by building condition. So, you know, how, if somebody's applying for a porch or siding, how much of that siding or porch visibly deteriorated? We're going to fund somebody whose siding is in extremely poor condition before we fund somebody whose siding just needs a new coat of paint and is structurally fine. Income level, the lower the income, the higher priority for us to fund. And neighborhood impact. You know, if it's barely visible from the street versus it's the siding and it's really going to help the neighborhood, and you know, we all know you drive down the street and it jumps out at you, because we all not only want to help you, the homeowner, we want to help your neighbors and make the biggest impact possible. So if we have enough money, everything eligible will get funded. If we get so many applications that we don't have enough funds, then we will go on that grading scale and make sure we fund things where the building has deteriorated a bit, where the income is lower, and where it's going to impact the neighborhood more. But again, if you apply in the first round by the end of August, it's possible we have enough money to fund every single eligible application. So I would recommend applying earlier. In terms of the financial requirements, you will need to submit those receipts and invoices. You're going to submit the quote ahead of time. So the contractor or the business, you know, if you're painting your own home and you're just going to Sherwin-Williams, Farm King, Walmart, Ace, wherever, and you're buying those things, they'll give you a receipt. If it's a contractor, they'll probably give you an invoice and then the receipt paid, and then we'll reimburse you. We'll give you a check after the approval of application, permit issuance, submission, approval, successful city inspection. So we are going to pay out after that successful inspection on the back end. We want to make sure, especially if you hire a contractor, that you're getting what you paid for, we're getting what we paid for, and that it's, again, a quality job. Funds have to be used for what they have to be used for. Yeah, you're gonna need to come up with all the proper paperwork. And we'll kind of move on and talk a little bit. In terms of the application process, we have a lot of forms, a lot of documentation. And I would say if you're not sure, the wonderful gentleman sitting to my right, Darren, or anyone else at WRC, go in and talk to them. You know, if you have questions about Form B, please go in and talk to them. If you have questions about what we should include in the narrative or not, or what the quote needs to be or not, you're halfway through it, go in and talk to them and get help. We're not intending this to be a deliberately difficult process. We want to make it as easy as possible, as simple as possible. And if we have questions, we're happy to answer those questions. That being said, by August 31st, you do need to hand in a completed packet. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with talking to Darren next week instead of August 30th.
We're all coming on the 30th.
So no decisions would be made until the deadline when everybody has submitted the.
No, we're going to convene a committee because of the government. That's what we do. But we'll have a representative from council who's the chair of the community development committee. We'll have city staff, we'll have WRC, and we'll go through the applications, verify they're all complete. All the applicants are eligible, all the work is eligible. And then if we don't have enough funding, then we'll go by the scoring criteria. But no decisions are going to be made until August 31st. But that doesn't mean you can't hand in your application next week. You don't need to wait till August 31st, especially if you have questions on part of it. You know, is this eligible? Is this fine? Did I do this properly? Hand it in early. Would absolutely make that recommendation. And city council will be the final awardee. You know, we're going to take the city council and ask them to approve as their city funds. But that committee is really going to be where we go over the applications and do all the detailed work. In terms of the timeline, and I'm only going to go over round one. We're rolling it out now. August 31st, that deadline for the applications due to the Western Illinois Regional Council. Keep that in your head. And like I told you with the committee, we're going to meet by September 15th and communicate those rewards, those decisions made to the applicants. You know, we were able to award you this money, or no, for a certain reason, this wasn't eligible, et cetera, et cetera. So you will get a response fairly quickly. After that notice of award, we would ask the recipients to apply for the permits and start the work process, submit the receipts upon the successful completion of that and obtain reimbursement. And we're very aware that some projects you may be able to complete fairly quickly. If it's an entire roof job and the roofing contractor is busy, it may be a lengthier process, and that's fine. You do have a year essentially to get everything in. That being said, sooner is always better.
Do you have to have all the work done and all the receipts in at the same time, or if you have like you're doing a roof and siding, if you get the roof done, can you turn that in?
We're not going to pay you until everything's in.
Yeah.
So if you need to give something to WIRC and then submit more later, I don't think there's any problem with that, and Darren can comment. In terms of, are we going to cut you a check before it's all done? No. But in terms of, can you submit it at different points? Absolutely. I mean, especially if it's a matter of just keeping things organized and making sure you get that correct documentation, and absolutely hand it in when you get it.
If there were things that were decided before we found out about this program, those things wouldn't qualify because we weren't approved yet.
No, they wouldn't qualify. I just actually had a good question from, similar question from, like another partner with another agency. She has a similar question. But that being said, if you did the windows and the siding needs it too, you know, you could do this, you know, the thing next to it. But yeah, it kind of needs to be, yeah, it kind of needs to be new work, but you could do more. And I don't know about you, but I do own a house and the list will never end.
So, the check would be made out to the homeowner, not to the contractor, and then the homeowner would be responsible for paying the contractor.
Yeah, because you're also going to pay the contractor, I mean, 10% no matter what, and this is kind of reimbursement, so you may have had to pay 50% of the cost depending on the contractor, because that's the way a lot of contractors operate, so. Yeah, we'll cut you the check. You're the applicant. And we're not going to get in the middle of it, but usually it's a good idea to sign a contract with the contractor, and so everybody's protected both on the contractor and the homeowner side, exactly what you're doing, timeframes, details, you know, and make sure everyone does what they're supposed to do. We have a lot of agreements. I'm not going to go over them too deeply, in fact, at all, really, other than to say, you know, people get confused on what we want on the narrative. I don't want you to write a novel. Darren doesn't want you to write a novel. Write a few sentences. If you need to, feel free to attach something, but say, how is this going to help our household? How is this going to help the structure? How is this going to improve things? You know, if you have a porch that's deteriorated a bit and is starting to become a safety hazard, you know, say that. If you have siding that's beginning to deteriorate and it's causing you to worry about the long-term health of your house, say that. You know, the windows are drafty because they're, you know, 60 years old. It's an older home, say that, whatever it may be, and then describe the impact these are having here. But again, we don't need 17 pages. Just say shortly and succinctly, why is this going to make my property look better for the neighbors? Why is this going to help the whole neighborhood? And it can be a coat of paint, right? Coat of paint can jazz everything up.
So I assume they could approve some of it, but not all of it. Like if you submitted windows and porch, they might approve one and not the other.
Well, we might. I would say keep in mind that it's a maximum reimbursement of $10,000. So, you know, certainly paint and a porch probably are fine. If you start getting into roofs, you know, you're probably looking at a roof. So, you know, it just depends, but keep that in mind that that is a maximum reimbursement limit for any property of $10,000.
So they might approve some of it, but not all of it.
We might, but again, if you get it in on the first round and we get $250,000 worth of applications, we're going to fund all of the eligible applications. So I would fund everything you're prepared to do or apply for everything you're prepared to do. And again, keeping in mind it's a reimbursement grant, but absolutely apply.
Is that one application per project, or is it one? Does that make sense? I know it's a $10,000 limit, but is it one application per project or all in one?
We're starting to get into a workflow question, and so I'm going to refer to Darren.
It's what you're asking, like if you're doing a roof and siding, it's two different applications. Or
That's
one
the question.
Yeah.
One application question.
One application.
Okay.
I think we prefer to have one application.
Okay.
per
Makes
project.
sense.
And I think too, that if you go to the contractors and you get a quote from them, you're gonna find out what they're gonna charge you for that project.
Yeah.
And then you might alter your plan based on what they're gonna charge you.
Makes sense.
That's a good segue. Darren, do you want to just walk through the workflow of like, if any of these people or anyone else that may have wanted to apply, like what they're going to do and how they're going to do it?
Well, you've got the pages of the application here as part of the packet. This is also available at the WIRC website, WIRPC.org. You can go there. It's a PDF that you can print off and then fill out. So you're going to fill out the documents in the packet here, and then along with your application, you'll have to submit your income documentation showing what you do earn for income. That could be maybe your Social Security award letter for the year showing what amount you get for each month. If you work and you get pay stubs, then you want to go back 30 days and have check stub from that previous 30 days to show what your income is.
Okay, I work for the university,
Okay.
but I work for the food service. So my hours this month are going to be, so should I go back 2 months when I'm working full time as opposed to being temporary?
That's a good question.
So
Do you have tax receipts from the previous year? Jennifer, I think that might be a good.
It might be best to submit your tax return
Okay.
for the previous year.
John, what I would suggest is that we start there, but if you're not eligible for some reason, if you're over the line, then we would see which is the best.
Okay.
So like if your tax return puts you slightly over the line, then we can say, let's try 30 days income most recent. Whichever one's gonna be best for you.
Okay.
Because one is a longer look at a year, so what's happening in the last 30 days.
Okay.
And we have the luxury of this being a local program, both, kind of, just in terms of everybody's in the room right now. You can go and have that conversation there. You can talk it through and say, am I eligible? What could be eligible? It's not like, sometimes when we're applying for a federal or state thing, there's nobody in the home. We're lucky. We can schedule a meeting. Any of you can walk in and have that conversation. But like Roger said, if tax receipts are a number that's eligible anyway, let's not worry about it.
Well, I'm sure glad we can walk in somewhere and talk to somebody that everything doesn't have to be done online, because that can really be a nightmare.
You can just call me ahead of time and we'll set up something over the phone, a time to connect.
Here, I think we had a question back there.
I think it's a general question. 6 and 7, that's the more, important part of the application that I think, my application is finished. But really, I didn't put what word it would be because you don't know if you're going to get approved. And so I thought we were just asking why we shouldn't tell you, not really telling what the project would be when you look at the questions of 6 and 7.
Well, when the application is scored, we're going to be looking at what that project is and award points based on that. So
We'd be happy to talk to further get help. We'd be happy.
sure.
We just want to hear your story. We'll help you.
And because it's local and, we're able to accept it handwritten, you can fill it in except for the sections that you're not comfortable with. And then, walk in, fill it in the office. I think that'd be totally fine.
Or we can do it tonight or now if you want.
Yeah.
We can do it right here.
It's written, but it didn't really, I know it needs to be done, but I was thinking like, what if you don't get approved? And what if it's windows? How much can I afford?
Yeah.
Do I have?
But you don't have to commit to anything, so you can get award letters. Like you do what you think is best for you, and then when you get that award letter, you can look at that again and you can come talk to us again about it. You're not committed to doing the work just because you get approved. You might do the work. You might have a good plan, but you're not, no one's gonna come out there and make you do it.
And I would say, don't let uncertainty about how to fill something in stop anybody. And please relay that to people who aren't in the room here today as well. Please apply, please come in and ask questions. We don't want just an unfamiliarity with the grant process to be the reason somebody doesn't apply. Please come in, please ask questions.
So like on the road, do I need 2 estimates?
You would need to, they don't need to be a formal bid or anything, but if you can call a contractor and say, hey, this is my roof at 123 Main Street, what would it cost? And they're able to give you just, a quote that would be, you attach to those, and you probably would want to fund lower. but, I would ask 2 licensed roofers, make sure they're qualified to do the work. Roofers should be licensed in the state of Illinois. And most of, all the local ones are. You don't want somebody to do your house the first time as a roof. You want one of the people who've done dozens of successful roofing jobs, so your home is weatherproof for a long time. But
Can I throw a couple of hypotheticals out, John, and see maybe some folks are thinking about this and just aren't comfortable asking. So, first of all, you don't have to have a project that is $10,000. It can be anything, and we'll fund, will be looked at, and we'll fund up to 90% of that. In the same vein, say you meet the income requirements, but you've been saving for a roof, and you have some matching dollars set aside, but you still meet the income requirements, and the roof is $20,000, we're still going to fund up to $10,000 of that. So, and I think you talked about windows and roof and some other things. No matter what the costs are, as long as you feel comfortable proceeding, we'll pay up to $10,000 if you meet all the eligibility requirements. So, think as big as you want or as small as you want.
yeah, we don't want to discourage people from applying on either end of that spectrum. You could apply for a $500 project, equally like the mayor said, if you want to go above and beyond, it might not be 90% after 10,000, but we will fund up to 10,000.
You said no landscaping structural. What is a driveway? Is that structural or is that landscaping?
I don't think it's in the guidelines
Okay.
either way. I don't know. I think it might not score very well,
Okay.
to be honest. So I don't know that it is prohibited. So, states can certainly apply. But if they're like, I really need new windows and I really need a new driveway, apply for the windows.
Yeah, makes sense.
That is curb appeal.
I would love to read you my own driveway.
So John, in the application, we're looking for Form A and Form B, right? Form C comes later if you're a Form.
Yes.
So all you need to turn in is Form A and Form B.
Form A, Form B, your income.
Right.
Mhm. Let me see if I can find it.
Form C is on the back.
Yeah, Form C is gonna be after, it's really more of a contract with us. And, for example, there's a spot that says how much money. Obviously, we're not gonna know that kind of detail until we go through the award process. So don't worry about Form C, Form A, Form B, your income verification, your quotes, and then any additional documentation that you think is useful or helpful. If you're building a porch, rebuilding a porch, and you've drawn it out for your own use, please include that, but it's not necessary.
Part to go along with your application and your other documentation, it would be good to have a copy of your property tax statement for the year. We've had our first payment due on property taxes, so we just want to verify that you are current on those taxes.
He's correct. I didn't go into it, but it is in, I think, Form A or B that you are current on your property taxes. So it's an eligibility. So.
I mentioned photos. Photos are optional, but they do help tell your story if you're able to photos. Show what you want to fix. Go out in front of your house, take a photo from the street. Need help doing that? There's I want to sit right by the house. Your car take a photo for you.
And if it is a photo, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's fine to take it on your cell phone or something, and then email it to Darren, and that way you don't need to print it, and then it's a much easier process to take it on a tablet or a cell phone or something and then just email it versus providing a printed copy of that.
WIRC.com.
Well, my email address is here on page 7. And I've got business card here on the table too, that you can take if you want.
Darren's around most of the time, if you call and don't get Darren, you can ask for me, my name's Roger, either one of those.
And please, you know, relay this information to people around the community, your neighbors, you know, friends and family. I think it's very possible in the first round, we're gonna have out at or below the amount of applications we're able to fund because it's a month and a half till the due date. Tell them to apply, you know, even if they're not sure, tell them to apply, tell them to call Darren, tell them to schedule a meeting, walk in, send an email, make a phone call. You know, this is a great opportunity. We're probably not going to have something like this for the whole city. Again, when we apply for a state grant, they say, no, this neighborhood and these criteria, and it's very specific. This is the whole city, as long as you meet the income guidelines. You know, so it's a great opportunity. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your family. You know, especially for those things, you know, people have been wanting to do anyway, and they just can't quite, you know, get all the way there. This helps bridge that gap.
Do you have a community press release, something I can push out to my congregation for this?
Yeah, I think Kristen already sent out a press release, but I can definitely email that to you.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Roger, is your office in, City Hall or with WIRC?
WRC.
So you can help with photos?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you need help with the photo, we'll help. Our job is to help you get through the paperwork and submit the best application you can.
And again, there's nothing wrong with bringing in a half-filled-in application and saying, I got this so far, can you just help me, you know, get it 100% finished and make sure it's fine? I think that's absolutely fine. Does anybody have any other questions? I don't want to keep you here the whole evening.
But this is for the entire city.
Mhm.
I thought it was just a certain section of town.
No, this one is for the entire city, so they do have to be within city limits.
Yeah.
No, because like the mayor said, this is through the American Rescue Plan Act money. We're able to kind of make it how we want. We wanted it to be citywide, as long as you meet, you know, the income criteria and the building criteria. When it's a federal grant, you know, there's just a little more parameters that we have to adhere to. So for that other one, we talked about it will be a neighborhood, but this is the whole city.
You have to be a homeowner. No worries.
Yes, this is not open to rental properties. You have to live in your home and you have to meet those guidelines. But again, as long as you're a homeowner, you're within city limits and you're eligible, apply. So, anything you want to add?
I would just say if you're working on your application and you get things filled out, you can bring it into the office. The girls up front will know about the program, and if you need help or you have questions or just comments, I'm usually there. I can come out and meet you and talk to you about things.
And I'm going to add
What
to that.
building are you in? I'm not very familiar with town. I'm going to be,
133 West Jackson Street.
oh, so it's not here.
No,
Oh.
it's just on the other side of the square.
Oh,
So
It's
on,
across from the the jail. It's in the old modern home.
okay.
It's a red brick building.
if you walk towards this, if you walk to the courthouse, go around the courthouse and keep walking on Jackson Street, it'll be on your left-hand side.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we just moved into there, so don't look for a sign. There's no sign.
Just a private address.
And windows.
Okay.
And
Oh, my daughter.
so on page 7, it's got Darren's contact information and the address of Western Maui Regional Council, 133 West Jackson. So if all else fails, plug it into Google Maps and it'll take you here.
Our phone number on there, anyway.
What's that?
Phone number is on there anyway.
No.
No.
837-2997.
Yes. 837-2997.
Area code 309.
That, yeah, that's the second one.
Yeah. Oh, here, let me go into the chat. There's a good question that someone online asked about getting a list of licensed contractors in town. The Office of Community Development is on the second floor of City Hall. You can go there, you can look online on the city's website or give us a call at 309-833-4944. And we can get you a list of those licensed contractors. So again, that's just upstairs. Take the elevator and the stairs up. It's the first office on your right. And just ask for a list of the licensed general contractors. Tell them what kind of project you're doing, whether it's roofing or general, and we'll get you the list of the right contractors. It'll probably be a long list, but we'll certainly get you the list.
What would you tell?
309-833-4944. And that's the Office of Community Development.
You don't have to get the list, or you could go find a contractor and we'll verify later when you pull it from that.
Yes. And honestly, because this is a reimbursement program, I would recommend people seek out contractors that you feel comfortable with and that you're confident will be honest and do a good job. So if you know somebody who's had good experiences, you don't need to talk to us. Go talk to your neighbors and friends and families, community members, and hire, give us quotes from 2 people who you're comfortable will do a good job. That's what we want in the end is good work to be done.
John, if someone's painting or building their own deck, they could go to Lowe's.com or something, and put stuff in a shopping cart and print it, and have the count as one of the rest.
Yes.
And then the numbers for the other one.
Yep, you can go online and do it. I'm pretty sure if you go to a local, you go to Ace or Sherwin-Williams for paint or something like that, I'm sure they'll happy to create a list for you. So, and again, homeowners can do any work in their own house. So if you feel comfortable doing it, you certainly can. I think I would feel comfortable painting my house. I don't know that I'd feel comfortable with certain things in my house. So please make sure you I've done that. It was easier than buying it, actually. They shipped us the wrong doors. It's a bit of an adventure.
No, I like it. Adventure.
You don't want an adventure. You want simple, easy, and effective. That's what you want out of a contract. Are there? Go ahead.
Signature of applicant and then co-applicant. That's it.
That's if it exists. I own my house with my wife. We would both sign, but sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's 2. We just wanted to have that extra line if it applies.
Like mine was Kevin and Ken's.
Yeah.
On the tax deed.
If they co-own it, they should apply with you.
Okay, but our one instance lives out of town, right?
But Kevin was out of town.
Well, I could send it for a signature or something like that. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, well,
Let us know.
it's not going to be a problem. We just sent forms, agreements back and forth, and somebody printed it out and signed it and scanned it in and sent it back. And if you need help with that, like Roger said, just go in and we'll help make it. We just legally need them to agree that their property.
One of the things we're gonna do is look and see who owns the property in the town's website, and we're gonna match that to the application. So we need to make sure we get everybody.
But go ahead.
No, that's.
No, that's there. Ask. No.
I was just thinking about how the tax deed reads. So
Yeah. But
I'll just bring the tax deed.
yeah.
We would not throw out your application if you mess it up. Only one person like that. Yeah.
I'm not gonna mess it up. I'm bringing it to you.
I mean, we learned that already. If you would like it, you would work for something.
And that's absolutely, bring it most of the way filled in and then go into those questions. I don't think that's an issue. Any further questions?
So you and Darren and Roger are going to stay around for a few minutes. So anybody want to
Absolutely.
one-on-one with you, they do that.
Yes, it's kind of like an individual thing. That's
I'm not sure what you might want to do with this. Go out in front of your house, and if you can see it and dream about it, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because around the back of the house, only and then probably not gonna work. Just stand out in the front yard and look at your house, that's the key.
What we really want to do is, you know, you can, God, how am I going to figure out how to paint my house? How am I going to fix my roof? How am I going to fix my porch? How am I going to reside my house? And all those thoughts that have been going around your heads, that's what we want to make happen. So anything that you've been thinking and dreaming about, apply for it.
That's why I asked the question about the fairly new project. My mother used to always say, we plant the seed, you really want.
Yeah.
I pulled the permit last week with no knowledge of the program or what I was going to do. I probably spent $180 on wood and the bricks are just sitting there. So it's like work to help with the porch, but
Yeah.
that's why I was asking, is that too new or, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. But if there's something else you've been thinking about too, that absolutely would be eligible. Yeah. And again, houses,
Yeah.
there's always more. So,
That's true.
right. And with that, I think we'll end and we'll hang around and have as many conversations as you want to have. Thank you all so much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We were getting the money.